We understand the problem, and we're doing everything we can to attack it. It's going to take time, but I think we are on the right path. I mean, the fentanyl largely comes from two main foreign sources. You have fentanyl coming up from Mexico, and you have fentanyl coming in from China. And when it's coming in from China, a lot of times it comes through the mail. And so we're aware of that problem and trying to do what we can to prevent the fentanyl from coming in and being, used on the street. And from Mexico, it usually comes in by automobile. So, and unfortunately, we're kind of in an area where we've got the I-95 corridor. So you've got lots of vehicles just coming up from Mexico right into our area. And geographically, we're in the Northeast, where a lot of this fentanyl is headed to New York, and sometimes the eastern counties in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania can be like a way station for drugs and a way station for fentanyl in particular. So geographically, we're kind of in a bad spot. These traffickers have access to us via the major roads that come through our district, and also we're close to some major cities that traffic in this poison. So that's the 20,000-foot view on how it gets here, but we are absolutely focused on stopping it where we can. And also part of it is education, because people, I think, are starting to realize how dangerous fentanyl is and how powerful it is, and we have to keep getting the message out. People need to know that you might be thinking you're getting heroin, but you're going to get heroin laced with fentanyl, and it could kill you. You might be thinking you're getting meth, and you might get meth laced with fentanyl, and it's going to kill you. And unfortunately, for some addicts who are in such a huge grip of addiction, to them, the more powerful and the more dangerous and the crazier the drug, the bigger the allure. So you might have a death or a cluster of deaths in a particular area, whether it's Berks County or anywhere else, and law enforcement will publicize it and will try to address it, and that actually attracts the users. They want some of that too. It's so strong that it killed people, boy, that must be really good. Okay, we see that kind of mentality, and that's a frightening mentality. But hopefully, we are also educating people that they need to stay away from the fentanyl, and that you're really rolling the dice. You're playing Russian roulette when you're buying heroin off the street or you're buying meth off the street, and you're not necessarily going to be getting what you think you're getting. And you also, one of the ways that we have been trying to prevent and address this problem is we don't want people getting hooked on opioids and then becoming heroin addicts, and then become people who are exposed to heroin that might be laced with fentanyl. And so we're really focused on not just the street drug dealing, but the drug dealing that's going on in the doctor's offices. We're trying to make sure that we're preventing doctors from acting illegally who might be prescribing to people who have no medical need for the opioids that they're getting. Or, like I said before, if the opioids are going out the back door or being spread through the community in a way that the doctor knows is illegal, where essentially doctors are being drug dealers. And so if we can stop people from getting hooked on the opioids to begin with, they're less likely to then become heroin addicts, because, as we all know, what has happened in this epidemic, unfortunately, is people seek relief for pain, they get hooked on opioids, and then either the opioid prescriptions aren't available anymore, or they're too expensive, or what have you, or they want a greater high, and they end up buying the street heroin, which is more powerful and it was just cheaper. And then at that point, you're just in a downward spiral where, unfortunately, you may end up as a casualty of this epidemic. So if we can deal with both prongs of the problem, that's the way to do it. Deal with the problem in the doctor's offices and deal with the problem on the street. And we're aggressively pushing both avenues. And the DEA and the FBI in particular are really attacking this. And when we meet and talk as part of the Opioid Law Enforcement Task Force, we're talking about both prongs of the problem.